Hello and welcome back to Living Stories Productions. My name is Ellen and I'm going to be reading you part 2 of Barry and George's Jungle Puzzle Adventure. If you haven't already seen part 1, scroll below. We hope you enjoy.
Barry and George Go on a Jungle Puzzle Adventure, Part 2 by Jared O'Driscoll. They turned the corner and saw all these beautiful coloured birds. All green and yellows and reds and blues and pinks and whites, making all sorts of strange noises. This was definitely the beginning of the puzzle. So, the first part of the puzzle begins with a parrot. And the next part? Quizzed Barry. What's the next tropical animal you can think of? What about zebras? No, not really. They tend to be in dry climates, like Kenya and places like that. That's not really tropical, is it? What's tropical? What's tropical, they both pondered. A rainforest, that's tropical. What sort of animals do we see in a rainforest? What about crocodiles? Yes, we're tropical, aren't we? Of course we are, but we've adapted to live here in England where it rains all the time. Let's go and see some of our cousins, shall we? Announced George. So off they trotted to the crocodile house. There were lots of crocodiles, but not all of them recognised either Barry or George. The fact they were standing, talking and wearing hats might have been a bit confusing. Either that or they weren't related. So, we've got parrots, we've got crocodiles. What's next on the list? We'll have a look. What else lives in a rainforest? Continued George. I'm not really sure. Let's ask some of the children, suggested Barry. What lives in a rainforest? A snake, came back the answer. A snake and a tiger and a cheetah. That's a good start. Let's go to the snake house first, George said. Off they went to the snake house. I'm not a great fan of snakes, whimpered Barry. I'm not either, but it's okay because they're on the other side of the glass, replied George. So they had parrots, crocodiles, and snakes. Now they knew the first 3 clues of the puzzle. Once again the children were asked which animals live in the jungle. Bengal tigers, came back the answer. Let's go and have a look on the map. So George looked at the map. Yes, I see they have some. Let's go and visit them, George said. Off they wandered. Along the way they stopped for an ice cream. It was very delicious ice cream, strawberry, vanilla, with some cream on top with raspberry jam. Just as they were finishing their ice creams, they arrived at the Bengal tigers, who looked very scary. There were 2 prowling around, clearly looking for trouble. Barry and George, while thinking, let's not hang around here for too long before we become their next lunch, realised that this was another clue. But would that be enough to solve the puzzle? No, they both thought. They couldn't see any clues. They knew more rainforest animals were needed. We need to find more animals, George stated. I think we need to find even more exotic rainforest animals. That will give us more clues, and all will become clear, continued George. The children were asked once again, which animals live in the rainforest? Poison dart frog and tarantula, came back the answers. Great, responded Barry and George. Let's start with the frog. By this time, all this thinking was making them hungry again, so they decided to have some lunch. After lunch, they went to find the poison dart frog. They were in tropical houses with lots of other weird and wonderful animals, all blending into their surroundings. The frogs had a great skill of disguising themselves into the environment, and it took what seemed like hours to spot them. Finally, one of them looked straight at Barry, not blinking or moving, just staring at him. After a few minutes, Barry realised that it was actually looking straight past him. Barry turned and looked directly over his shoulder and spotted another tropical tank. They both crept over very warily, looking in, and they spotted a tarantula. It was well hidden in the undergrowth, but it soon spotted Barry and George and crept right up to the glass. Barry and George looked at each other, then bent down to look right at the spider. Just as they did, it lifted one of its 8 legs and started tapping on the glass. Barry and George, startled, then moved closer. Again, the spider tapped on the glass, turned round and pointed to the back of the glass. Barry and George looked, then realised they should look behind the tarantula's home. Nervously, they moved around. When they looked over their shoulder, they saw the spider pointing to a doorway. "Through there," it said with a very quiet voice. Astonished, Barry and George slowly turned the door handle and pushed open the door. In front of them was a whole rainforest, like a window into the Amazon. Then, as if by magic, the door closed. They turned, and it was gone. There they were, standing in the middle of the rainforest. After a few minutes of staring, open-mouthed, they noticed a vast golden city, glistening in the sunlight which crept through the treetops. They knew that this was the beginning of their adventure, and they had to get to the city before it was too late to complete the puzzle, because tea time was at 7.
Thank you for watching part 2 of Barry and George's Jungle Puzzle Adventure. If you would like to see part 3, please keep an eye out as we will be posting it very shortly, and you will get to find out if they get home in time for tea. If you would like to support us as a channel, please like or subscribe.